There's a file on your laptop. You probably know exactly which one I'm talking about. It has some name like business plan or final plan, or maybe something ambitious like freedom roadmap. You made it months ago. You've opened it 100 times, but never really used it. You tweak a few numbers, change a title, maybe adjust a projection, then close it. And somehow, you feel like you did something productive. But nothing in your real life actually changed. It's usually late when you open it. You're tired, maybe a little frustrated. You stare at it for a few minutes, feel this weird mix of excitement and anxiety, and then you close it and distract yourself with something easier. That's where most business journeys actually begin. Not with a big announcement, not with quitting your job dramatically. Just you, a laptop, and an idea you haven't acted on yet. And here's the truth nobody really says out loud. That file isn't a plan. It's comfort. It lets you feel like you're moving forward without taking any real risk. And if you stay there too long, nothing changes. A lot of people say they want to work for themselves, but very few actually take that first uncomfortable step. Because thinking about freedom is easy. Living it is something else entirely. At some point, something shifts. You get tired of waiting. You tell yourself, if I could just make a few thousand a month on my own, I'd be good. It sounds simple. But what you don't see yet is everything behind that number. Because your job right now, it's predictable. Money comes in regularly. Bills get paid. There's structure, even if you don't love it. And once you leave that behind, everything changes. The first morning after you decide to really go for it feels different. Not exciting in the way you expected. Quiet. Almost too quiet. No messages. No schedule. No one telling you what to do next. At first, it feels like freedom. Then it starts to feel like pressure. You sit down to work and suddenly realize no one is coming to guide you. Every decision is yours. And that's when things get real. Because now, it's not about ideas anymore. It's about execution. The first year is where most people get tested. Not publicly, not in a way people post about, but internally. You'll work more than you ever have, and earn less than you're used to. That's the part nobody puts on social media. You're doing everything. Trying to find customers, delivering whatever you promised, handling emails, payments, problems, all at once. Some days feel productive. Some days feel like nothing moved at all. And the hardest part? It's not just the work. It's the uncertainty. You don't know if what you're building will actually work. You just keep going anyway. Then one day, something happens. You make real money from it. Not just a small amount. Something meaningful. Enough to make you stop and think, okay, this might actually be real. That moment feels incredible. It's not just about money. It's proof. Proof that someone out there values what you're doing. And for a little while, everything feels easier. You start to believe. You start to relax a bit. Maybe you even reward yourself. But here's where things get tricky. Because success, even a small amount of it, can create pressure. You start increasing your lifestyle, spending a little more, expecting that same level to continue. But business doesn't move in straight lines. Some months are great, others not so much. And if your expenses grow faster than your stability, it catches up quickly. That's a lesson a lot of people learn the hard way. After a while, you enter a phase that's hard to explain. You're not failing, but you're not growing the way you imagined either. You're working constantly, but results feel inconsistent. It's frustrating, because from the outside, it might look like you're doing fine, but inside, you're questioning everything. Is this working? Am I wasting my time? Should I go back? That middle phase is where most people stop, not because they're incapable, but because it's exhausting to keep going without clear progress. If you push through that, something shifts again. You realize you can't do everything alone. You've reached your limit, and for the first time you consider bringing someone else in. That decision feels huge, because now it's not just about you anymore. It's responsibility, it's commitment, it's trust. Letting go of control isn't easy, but it's necessary if you want to grow beyond your own time and energy. As things grow, the numbers start to look impressive. Revenue increases. Opportunities expand. From the outside, it might look like you've made it. But what people don't see is what those numbers actually mean. Revenue isn't the same as income. There are costs. There are responsibilities. There are moments where you choose to reinvest instead of paying yourself. It's not always as glamorous as it sounds. But over time, if you stay consistent, adapt, and keep learning, you build something real. Something that doesn't rely entirely on your daily effort. Something that can run even when you step away, and that's when things feel different. Not exciting in a loud way, but steady, solid, real. One day, you take a break, a real one, and for the first time, everything doesn't fall apart. And that feeling, it's hard to describe. It's not hype, it's not adrenaline. It's quiet satisfaction, the kind that comes from knowing you built something from nothing. Here's the honest truth about all of this. It takes longer than you expect. It's harder than it looks. And it requires more patience than most people are willing to give. But for those who stick with it, it becomes worth it. Not because it's perfect, but because it's yours if you're still in that early stage. Staring at that file, thinking about starting. Just know this. You don't need a perfect plan. You need action. Even small steps. Even imperfect ones. Because nothing changes until you do. And if you're already somewhere in the middle of this journey, feeling stuck, tired, or unsure, that doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're in the part most people never push through. This path isn't easy, but it's real. And if you stay long enough, you might just build something that changes your life. If this felt a little too relatable, that's probably not an accident. And it might mean you're closer than you think. You keep telling yourself you'll start tomorrow. Tomorrow when you have more clarity. Tomorrow when the plan feels complete. Tomorrow when you feel more ready than you do right now. But the truth is, that version of ready never actually shows up. There's always one more thing you think you need to fix first. One more video to watch. One more idea to research. One more adjustment to make in that file sitting on your laptop. And while you're doing all of that, time is still moving. Weeks turn into months. Months turn into years. And the plan stays exactly where it started. At some point, you start noticing something uncomfortable. Other people are doing the thing you've been thinking about. Not better than you. Not smarter than you. Just earlier than you. They didn't wait until everything made sense. They moved while it was still messy. And that's the difference. Because starting doesn't feel like confidence. It feels like doubt. It feels like clicking publish when you're not sure anyone will care. It feels like sending a message you overthink for 10 minutes. It feels like putting something out there that might not work. And for a while, it probably won't. Not because you're incapable, but because that's how this works. You learn by doing, not by planning, not by thinking, not by waiting, by doing, by putting something into the real world and seeing what happens, then adjusting, then trying again. That first step is always small, smaller than you expect. It might just be one post, one offer, one attempt. But it breaks something important. It breaks the idea that you need everything figured out before you begin. And once that's gone, things start to shift. Slowly, at first, almost unnoticeably. You start getting feedback. Real feedback. Not opinions in your head. Not assumptions. Actual responses from real people. Some of it will be positive, some of it won't. Both are useful. Because now you're not guessing anymore. You're learning, and learning like that is what moves you forward. There will still be days where it feels like nothing is working, days where you question everything again, days where going back to a stable job sounds very appealing. That doesn't mean you made the wrong choice. It means you're experiencing the part most people avoid. Progress in this path isn't loud. It doesn't happen in big dramatic moments. It happens in quiet, consistent effort. Showing up when you don't feel like it. Trying again when the last attempt didn't work. Staying longer than most people would. Eventually, something clicks. Not all at once, but enough for you to notice. You get better, not perfect, but better. Faster decisions, clearer thinking, more confidence in your actions. And one day, you look back at that version of you, the one staring at that spreadsheet late at night, and you realize something. You didn't need a better plan. You needed to start. Because the real plan was never in that file. It was built through action, through mistakes, through adjustments, through time. So if you're still sitting there, thinking about it, waiting for the right moment, this is it. Not because everything is perfect, but because it never will be. Start before you feel ready. Move before it makes sense. Figure it out while you're in motion. Because the only thing worse than failing at this is spending years wondering what would have happened if you actually tried. And that version of regret, that one stays a lot longer than failure ever does. And here's the part nobody prepares you for. Once you actually start moving, you can't go back to thinking the way you used to. Before, everything lived in your head. Ideas felt perfect because they were never tested. Now, everything is real. Real effort, real reactions, real consequences. And yeah, sometimes that reality feels uncomfortable. Because now you see the gaps. You see what you don't know yet. You see where you're slow. You see where things fall apart. But that's not a bad thing. That's awareness. And awareness is what allows you to improve. At first, you'll try to do everything perfectly. You'll overthink small decisions. You'll spend hours trying to make something just right before putting it out. Then eventually, you realize something important. Perfect doesn't win. Finished wins. Done wins. Visible wins. Because the only way anything grows is if it exists outside your head. So you start moving faster. Not reckless, just less afraid. You stop waiting for approval. You stop needing everything to make sense. You trust yourself a little more. And that changes everything. Your focus shifts, too. In the beginning, you care about how things look. Now you care about what actually works, what brings results, what connects with people, what creates value. You stop chasing validation and start chasing progress. And slowly, your confidence becomes quieter. Less about hype, more about certainty. You don't need to announce everything anymore. You don't need to prove it to everyone. Because you're seeing it yourself. In small wins. In small improvements. In moments that wouldn't mean anything to anyone else, but mean everything to you. There will still be setbacks. That doesn't go away. But your relationship with them changes. Before, a bad result felt like a sign to stop. Now, it feels like information. Something to adjust. Something to learn from. Something to move through, not away from. And over time, something else happens. You stop measuring everything by immediate results. You start thinking longer. You start understanding that real growth takes time. That consistency beats intensity. That showing up again and again matters more than one perfect moment. This is where most people would have already quit, not because they couldn't succeed, but because they didn't stay long enough to see things compound. Because effort compounds, skills compound, reputation compounds, trust compounds, and once that starts working in your favor, things feel different. Not easy, but aligned. You're no longer guessing every step. You have direction. You have experience. You have proof that you can figure things out. And that's powerful. At this point, the journey isn't about escaping something anymore. It's about building something. Something stable. Something meaningful. Something that reflects your effort over time. And if you've made it this far, you've already done what most people never do. You moved. You tried. You stayed. So wherever you are right now, at the beginning, in the middle, or somewhere in between, just remember this. You don't need everything figured out. You never did. You just needed to start and keep going long enough for it to make sense. And if you're still here, you already are.